Hey, Mike, how's it going? Glad you could make it. Yeah, my internet crapped out a few minutes ago. I don't know why I had to switch from my 5G to my regular Wi-Fi. I don't know why it wasn't working, but it's working now, so hopefully it stays that way. Yeah, it's something new I wanted to do. I wanted to do this for a while just to try it, see how it works out, and it gives me the opportunity to explain things a lot more than trying to cram everything into like a 10 to 15-minute video, because usually there's so much that I want to say that I cut out or just don't even bother to say, because just to the length of the video, it's tough. I mean, you guys know you guys do videos too, so it's hard to try to condense things down when you have a lot to talk about. Yeah, me too. I don't know what the problem was. Some reason my internet just didn't want to work. I mean, I tested everything before, but that's how it goes, I guess. We'll give it a few more minutes, see if some more people pop in, and I'm going to do a rundown of everything that's happened from when I dropped the car off to where things are as of today, because I did hear some update stuff today, which is in the direction of good news finally. So things are progressing, but I wanted to be able to put everything like in a timeline sequence of how everything went, because it was just tough. Things didn't go as planned, obviously. I would have had the car back probably 2 weeks ago at this point if it wasn't for things that kept messing up. But it's at the point now where I'm pretty much at the end of it. But we'll give it another few minutes, see if some more people pop in, and I'll start going over all that stuff. And I'll have some stuff to show off too, some mods that I haven't talked about yet. Nothing really groundbreaking, because obviously the big mods are on the car for what was just done with it. But there's other things that I've picked up, over the past couple of weeks that I figure the people that show up for the live stream or watch it after it's something, like a privilege. You get to see some stuff being done before I actually put it on the car and do a video on it. So anything going on with you guys at all? Any updates with the Mach 1 at all, Mike? How's it going with that? Yeah, I bet that's a pain. It just sucks because it varies so much from state to state too, as far as emissions go, what you have to have and all that stuff. And so like states like Florida, you basically run no cats, no emission stuff at all. It's completely fine, no inspections. But it's the same way, like up here, we don't have smog in Maine, but we do have inspections where you're required to have catalytic converters, working exhaust system, all that stuff, EGR stuff. I did have the EGR removed on the Cobra. I asked the shop if they would do it, and supposedly they did. I haven't confirmed that yet, but they said they were going to, so that's good at least. Oh, nice. I have a car show tomorrow, but I don't have the car, so I won't be taking the car. I don't think I'm going to go. I'm not burnt out on car shows because I haven't been to many this year, but it's that I really just want to take mine. And if I can't have mine, then I don't really want to go. So it's kind of where I'm at. And I'll explain in just a little bit another reason why I don't want to go tomorrow. I'll start explaining everything now. There's a few people in here. So as I stated in some videos that I did before, the car was dropped off on May 24th. And the whole stipulation with the car was that when I talked to Aaron's the owner of the shop. The car is at DRK Performance. It's located in Lebanon, Maine. And everything to do with DRK Performance and Performance Dyno, where the car is going to get the tune done, I have absolutely zero issues with either one of those places. All these delays, all these hang-ups and everything have not been on them. They have been, especially Aaron, has been really good with being forthcoming and giving me updates and information. So the whole stipulation, when I dropped the car off, I talked to Aaron before dropping it off, and he told me that they're booked up by 2 months. So I was looking at not even getting the car into the shop until probably July or maybe even August, because they were backed up so much. That was the big hang up with waiting until the wintertime and taking the car in. And it's like, I don't really want to have to wait all summer long with a VMP Gen3R sitting here in this room. This is where it's like a collections room and where I keep a lot of the spare parts for the Cobra. And it's like, I didn't want to wait all summer long before I made progress of trying to get it on. So the stipulation was that he said they do a lot of work in between scheduled jobs. He said the first time I talked to him, he said, yeah, we banged out a clutch and long tube install on a Coyote just the other day. I'm like, okay. He said, if you bring it in, we can work on the car in between jobs, but they are a business. Scheduled jobs are a priority. So the Cobra was kind of like a side project they would work on when they had time to. So I was thinking probably about 6 weeks is when I would get the car back. It's about what I was figuring. Fast forward 6 weeks from that point, they were pretty much done with the car. The car was wrapped up and done in probably late June, early July is about the time frame where it was done. The first hang up with everything was when I talked to Aaron, he said he was advising not to bang the coolant crossover tube for the VMP Gen3R. He said it was a better option to run a coolant crossover delete. And I don't disagree with him. I believe that is a better option. There are tons of VMP Gen3Rs on terminators out there that are running and they're perfectly fine. There's no issues or anything like that. But I just didn't want to take the chance that something could go wrong if that coolant crossover tube got compromised in any way and it sprung a leak at some point, because I do plan on taking some longer trips with the car, a couple hours. There's also the New York Meetup that's still kind of fuzzy whether it's going to happen or not. I hope it can. But so the first hang up was he ordered the coolant crossover delete, the MMR piece, from his supplier. It got lost. It didn't get lost, but it got stuck in FedEx for like a week and a half. I had also another part that I had shipped from Florida. I believe it was coming from Lethal Performance, and that also got stuck. So that time frame, like around June, it was early June when I talked to Aaron about doing the coolant crossover. Really, I think it was actually June 9th or something like that. So we were backed up by like a week and a half, just waiting for that one part to show up. And he said, I have 6 cars sitting here waiting for parts to show up that are just lost in shipping or stuck in shipping or whatever the issue was. So that was the first delay. And the second delay was we finally got the coolant crossover delete, put it on the car, sent me a text one day, said, hey, the coolant crossover delete is leaking. And I'm like, oh crap. He's like, no big deal. I'll order another one and no issues. I'm like, okay, cool. So of course, more time goes by for waiting for that to come in and them to have time to put it on. Cause like I said, it's a side project. And yeah, you're not wrong, Mike. This is the crutch of the entire problem that I've had with the car. And I'm going to get deeper into that for why this is the problem. So fast forward to not this past Monday, but the Monday before. The car was completely done at this point. Everything was wrapped up. Coolant crossover delete was on. Everything was fine. The only thing I was waiting on was performance dyno. They're also backed up by 2 months. But DRK Performance and Cobra Dan down in Massachusetts have a real close relationship with Pete at Performance Dyno. So DRK Performance and Cobra Dan both have top priority for any cancellations or openings in the schedule. And because they were booked up by 2 months, he couldn't just slide me in at any point because the dyno was just tied up too much. But if there was a cancellation, I was good to go at that point. So not this past Monday of this week, but the Monday before that, Pete calls Aaron in the morning, said, hey, we had a cancellation today. You can bring his Cobra down and we'll tune it. And so Aaron goes to load the car onto the trailer, and that coolant crossover delete blows again, and it sprays coolant all over the engine bay, all over everything. And he texts me like 11 in the afternoon. I didn't get the message until I got out of work. And he said, hey, I was taking it down to get dyno tuned, and the coolant crossover delete started to leak again. And I'm just, at this point, I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. It's like the second one that's been leaking. And so I go back and forth with him with text messages a little bit. And he's like, what do you want to do? I contacted the place where I bought it from. They said they're willing to overnight it and I'll get it the next day. Or we can order a different one, like a different brand, or we can do the banging of the coolant crossover tube. And I told him I don't want to deal with things getting lost in shipping again or getting delayed or anything like that the first time, because it was a week and a half the very first time that was ordered. So I told him, do the overnight one and put it on the car and see if it leaks or not. And if it does, we'll fall back on the OEM coolant crossover delete. We'll just bang it, and we'll go with that for now until the later point when I can get a different brand one if the MMR one doesn't hold. Well, that's the thing, Mike. That's what we ended up doing, because Aaron put the third coolant Y block in, and that one leaks too. So the MMR coolant crossover delete, coolant crossover tube deletes there's something wrong with them. I don't know what MMR is done differently, if they have a different manufacturing process or what they're doing, but there's something wrong with those. And I did a post on one of the Cobra Facebook groups, and one of the guys made the comment that I find it hard to believe that you've gone through 3 Y blocks and that's the problem. You have to start looking at the installer. And like, it's not them. DRK Performance has built some pretty nasty Cobras. Aaron himself has a 1,000 horsepower Sonic Blue Terminator. He knows how to build these things. It's not their first go around with building a high performance car. It's not them. So what happened was he ended up putting the OEM coolant crossover tube back on and banged it out. I talked to him today. He sent me a text message this morning. I called him and we talked for a little while about everything. I asked him specifically, what's the issue with the coolant crossover delete? What's the problem with it? Is it leaking from the Y block? Is it the lines? Where is it coming from? He told me it's not where it threads into the block. into the Y block. Where it's coming from is the line that goes into it. It's not the threads. It's where it connects. Like, I don't know if there's like a gasket or something in there that's within that line after it screws in. But he said the threads weren't leaking, but it's leaking from the line. So that's the overall problem with the current MMR Y blocks. Yeah, that's the other thing too, Mike, is that he said that he has put these coolant crossover deletes on before, the MMR ones specifically, and he said he's never had any problems with them. They've always been really good. And I remember like years ago when I first started hearing about MMR, they were amazing products and made really good stuff. What I don't know is if their general overall quality has gone downhill or if they had a bad batch of either Y blocks or the lines that go into it. But that's where it stands as of now. So the original OEM line is the OEM coolant crossover is back on now. He banged it out, and that's how it stands as of now. Hey, glad you could make it. How was the show? Was it good? You'll have to send me some photos later if there's some good stuff there. So I mentioned too that I talked to Aaron today. The Cobra is down to performance dyno. It got taken down there today. So it's expected to be dynoed between tomorrow to maybe early next week. Pete said he's going to try and get it done this weekend. If he can't, he is going to go over after he's done his regular job during the week and do it then. So I'm hoping that they can do it tomorrow because Sunday is complete crap weather-wise with that what's left of that tropical storm coming up. I don't want to drive it back in conditions like that. I would probably leave it and go and get it like on Wednesday when I have a day off from work if it was done this weekend. But that's how it stands right now as far as the time frame of everything. So I went from getting it back 2 weeks ago. I should have had it back if it wasn't for the Y block blowing out basically for the second time at that point. And then this third one's leaking, and now we're at the point now where the car is all back together and the OEM one is back on. I did ask a bunch of questions about the On3 performance coolant crossover delete kits, and those appear to be quite reliable. There was no one saying that they were leaking. A lot of good positive feedback on that. The problem with that is, as with a lot of stuff right now, is a lot of them are on back order. I do have someone that reached out to me. It was actually Andrew from Mustang Lifestyle. He sent me a message over Facebook and said, hey, I do have one if you need it. So I may take him up on that and order. I need to get back in touch with him, get some pictures. I want to make sure it's in good condition. If it's all scratched up or anything like that, I don't want to use it. But if it's in good condition, I'll most likely get that from him. A lot of Chevys. That's funny because I just went to a car show a few weeks ago, and like a lot of the old, like the really old classic cars and stuff like that, like the hot rods and stuff like that. They all, like all the Fords, like the model, not Model Ts, but like the hot rod rods and stuff like that. They all had Chevy motors in, which was weird, but it was just, I think it's like ease of swapping everything over with Chevy stuff into a Ford. It'd probably just cheaper and all that stuff. So you see that quite a bit. Oh, that sucks. Oh, that reminds me too. I'll show you guys this real quick. This is something that I haven't mentioned on the channel. Whoops, I hit my stand. This came with the car. I have zero money into this. It's trying to get it focus. It's the MMR head cooling mod. All the fittings, both the it goes into the block. So I have a head cooling mod that I basically got for free. It came with the car. Obviously, I haven't put it on or had it put on, and I'm not going to use this. I have heard that these have been updated overall as far as more better options really for head cooling mods. I could put that one on and it would probably be perfectly fine. The problem is that I'm so jaded towards MMR right now because they held the whole Cobra process up by probably a month at this point, between having to order additional Y blocks or the entire kit, and the time for Aaron to put it on when they had time at the shop, and it just backed everything up so bad. It's like I would rather sell this to someone that wants it and spend money to buy a new one when I actually had one for free. But I'm just at the point where it's like I don't want anything MMR on my car at this point. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people doing that, doing the RVT with the head cooling mod too, and they appear to be fine. I think that the head cooling mod that I have, I think it's an older one. It's like the first gen version of it, and I think that's when MMR's quality was really good. I'm not too worried about that leaking. I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine. It's just the fact that I don't really trust them at this point, and the fact they held the car up for that long because of that one part. I really don't want any of their stuff on my car at that point. So I'm most likely going to sell that. I have a lot of stuff coming off the Cobra 2 that I am selling. Basically, the JLT cold air intake, I'm going to have that. The BA 2600 SCT mass air meter, that's going to go up for sale because I got the, like I showed in the reveal video, it's the entire VMP kit that comes with a 5-inch air intake, which also comes with a slot style mass air meter. So I'm not going to need the BA 2600 anymore. I'm going to sell the 2.76 pulley that I have on the Eaton now. I could sell the Eaton, but I kind of want to keep all the OEM parts that I can as much as possible. I know a lot of these parts are really hard to track down, like the stock shifters are really hard to find. So I'm going to try and hold on to as much of the OEM parts as I can, even though the Eatons really aren't like one of the sought after items. The amount that I would get for it really isn't, worth it to me to get rid of it. So I'm just going to keep that and sell off some of the other stuff, and I'll go from there at that point. Other than the head cooling mod, I'll show you guys some of the other stuff that I have kicking around. Let me go grab it. Hold on. Now, as always, like I did in the reveal video for like some of the parts going on the car that I did earlier this year when I did the 4 innovation fuel system, I used that, didn't use it, but I put that up last as far as the mod. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with the most boring, mundane stuff, and I'll get to the better stuff at the end. But I did get new mats because my Cobra ones, the one in the car now, the Cobra is actually peeling up from the bottom. It's really bad. So I got a new Lloyd mat, so that will be good going into the car. The interior is really good in that car as well. It's really good shape. The seats are in great condition, but the mats were the only thing that was kind of like an eyesore on the whole thing. Another thing is I got some hood struts to go on. These are the CDC ones. I wanted the kind that didn't have any of the decals on the side, but everything's back ordered. And these are ones where you don't have to use rivets. You can just use the stock location bolts and put these on. So that'll be real easy to put that on. I hate the hood prop, and when I go to car shows, I really don't want to have the hood prop on there. It'd be better to have hood struts. So it's a lot cleaner. Another thing, I didn't talk about it in any of the recent videos at all, but I had a lot of powder coating done under the engine bay. I didn't want the VMP on there with everything else that kind of looked bad. I think the sore point that I had with the car was always under the engine bay. I wanted it to look better than it did. It was always not up to par of what I wanted. So I had the valve covers powder coated. The pulley bridge is powder coated and the lower intake is powder coated. So with that, I also have these to go on the ignition coil covers. So that's going on the car. Aaron actually had the stock ones powder coated black. So it does look okay, but I told him, I said, you could just leave it or do whatever with them. I wasn't too concerned about what the stock ones look like because I knew I was buying those anyway. And I have this. Let's see if I can get it out of the box. This came all the way from Canada, from Harpel Auto Fab. I got one of the Terminator radiator covers. So that's going on. I think it will look really good with everything else that's done with the powder coating underneath the engine bay. Having the coil covers on there and the radiator cover will just make it look that much better overall. Also, one of the other things that I never liked about the car, and I've mentioned this a lot in videos, is it rides really rough. It does have coilovers on it, which everyone thinks, oh my God, coilovers, that's so great. Well, not in this case. I've mentioned it before, but it has a Maximum Motorsports Race 3 coilovers on it. They're, because this car was raced at Sebring, it was a track car for a while, so it works great for that. I've taken on ramps and off ramps, and it just sticks really well. But regular street driving, it's not the best. It takes bumps really hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to a conventional spring and shock strut setup. So I do have a set of H&R springs. I got the H&R Sports. So those will be going on. And as far as the shocks and struts go, let me get these out of the box. I got some Coney adjustables. I was going to go with Bilsteins, the same ones that come on the Cobra R's, but these ones are adjustable where the Bilsteins are not. So I thought it would be better just to have the added benefit of having an adjustable shocks and struts on there. And I just kind of wanted to get away from the coilover setup. I really don't need the ride height adjustability of coilovers. I'm just going to get it set the way that I want it. And I just want it to basically just to ride better on the street overall than what it currently does. So I'm not sure when the suspension stuff is going to go on at this point, because the problem is I've missed so much time with the car this year already. I don't really want to take a day or two doing the suspension install on a day where I could be driving it. That's the tough part, is that we're at the end of August now. I drove the car last year until November, and I was lucky to get it until November. I actually put it up on a day that was 70 degrees in November, but I knew that the cold weather was right around the corner, and I didn't want it to creep upon me too quick. So that's the problem now, is that I've missed the entire year with the car. Basically, I got it out early in the spring in March, so I drove it from like late March, month of April, and the month of May. And as I said earlier, it went into the shop on May 24th. So I basically had maybe 2 months with the car this year, and I don't want to lose any more time with doing stuff in the garage. I just hate the idea of having a nice day where I could be driving it and it's sitting on jack stands in the garage. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I mean, I was all set on getting the Bilsteins, and they were backordered for a long time. And I was just going to wait it out because they kept saying they're going to come into stock. But every time that date came close, they got bumped out more and more. So then I started looking at the other set that I bought, and they were in stock and they were adjustable. So it's going to be nice just to have that added benefit of being able to adjust that a little bit more. The other problem too that I'm running into as far as a timeline crunch is I wanted to still do the Cobra Northeast meetup that I talked about before. The only issue now is that if I get the car back this weekend or next week, that's 4 weeks away at that point to do it on the original date. So that's the hard part right now, is that if I do end up doing this, I'm probably going to have to bump the date back a little bit more, unfortunately, because getting the car back after everything that I just went through with a whole fuel system install and the VMP going on, I need a little bit of time with the car to make sure everything's going to be okay. It's not that I don't have any faith in DRK performance. Aaron does amazing work. It's just you never know what could happen. So next week is 4 weeks out from the original date for the Cobra Northeast meetup. Out of those 4 weeks, I work 2. With my job schedule, I work half a year. I work half of the days in an entire month. So if you take a month time frame, cut that in half by 2, I work 2 weeks out of that. I don't take the Cobra to work because there are a lot of idiots at work, and everyone knows I have this car. They all know not to park near it or mess with it, but I won't take it on a weekday. I just wouldn't bother. So I have basically 2 weeks with the car until the Northeast meetup. Out of those 2 weeks, how many days are going to rain? It's been an extremely wet summer. So I think at this point, my 2 options that I have is to bump the date further back into October, so I have more time with the car so that I know I'm not going to have any problems with it to drive it out there, or to postpone it until next summer, hopefully like early spring, early summer. Nope, that's okay. I'm just glad you're here. I went over a bunch of mods that I have for the car. If you want to stay towards the end, maybe I'll show those again real quick. So as far as the Northeast meetup goes, I'm still up in the air as far as when it's going to happen. When I first started putting the word out there that I wanted to do this, I was under the anticipation that I would have the Cobra back within a couple of weeks at that point, and it would have been, early to late July, and I would have had July, August, September until that date came up. But now I'm down to like 2 weeks between the amount of time I'll actually have with the car. I talked about that earlier. Just a real quick recap. The Cobra is down at Performance Dyno right now. It got brought down today. Aaron has a friend that has a towing company. He specializes in doing a lot of performance car hauls, cars that are lowered, stuff like that. So he said, your car is in good hands. It was brought down to Performance Dyno today, and he said it was dropped off today. I'm sure it was. I haven't checked back with him the rest of the day, but the plan is to hopefully get a dyno this weekend. If Pete can get a dyno this weekend, he's going to get to it at the beginning of the week next week, hopefully Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. He said he would go in after his regular job and bang it out at that point. So I'm hoping that within the next 3-4 days, I'll actually get it back. So it's just been a really long wait. And when I talked to Aaron today too, I said, I'm definitely frustrated, but I'm not mad at him at DRK Performance, and I'm not mad at Pete at Performance Dyno. They've always been good to me. Pete's always been good to me. I've only known of Aaron and DRK Performance since May, because I didn't even know they existed until Pete told me about it. Because when Pete does recommendations, anyone that's south of him, he sends to Cobra Dan down in Mass, and everyone north of him, he sends to DRK Performance. So I didn't even know of Aaron until May. Then I find out he builds all these crazy friggin' Cobras, and he has a 1,000 horsepower Cobra himself. He does have some stuff going on with that, but I'm not at liberty to say what he's doing. He told me not to say anything, but we'll just say it's interesting stuff, to say the least. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. When I was texting you about this before, you mentioned doing the U-Haul thing, which is not a bad idea until I started looking at the prices of everything. I believe I told you that it was about $500 to haul it out there and haul it back. That was a rental for the U-Haul pickup truck and the rental for the trailer. The problem that I run into is that that's not the only cost. When you take that cost plus the gas to go out there and back, the added mileage of my house to where it gets dropped off at, that'll be additional mileage on top. Plus the cost of the hotel room, I'm looking at probably close to $1,000 for 2 days. And I'm not really big on spending that amount of money for 2 days when I'm right on the verge of paying Aaron and the shop for everything they did on the car, install of the VMP, install of the fuel system, all the powder coating. I have to pay for the haul, getting the car down to Performance Dyno on the trailer. I'm expecting somewhere between $2,200-$2,300 for everything to be done. He originally quoted me like around $1,300-$1,400, but with the added cost of the powder coating, and also had to buy the coolant crossover delete, which actually don't because they got returned. But overall, with all the deletes and everything else, it's coming out to right around $2,000. The powder coating is pretty much what bumped it up. Plus, it was like $200 to have the car towed down there for the dyno tune. So with that cost, plus I'm going to owe Pete $500 for doing the tune with the VMP. So I'm going to be in like around $2,500, if not a little bit more. And then if I was to go to the Northeast Meetup and haul the car out there, I'm looking at probably close to another $1,000 for all of that, with all that costs incurred, anything that I spend while I'm out there. So that's kind of why I don't want to haul it out at this point. If everything wasn't so condensed money-wise, as far as them being so close together, it wouldn't be as much of an issue, even though it's a hard pill to swallow to spend $1,000 just for 2 days, but it'll be a little bit easier to do. But for now, my plan is I want to split it up into 2 days. I want to go like halfway, one day with the Cobra, stay at a hotel, and the next day get to Albany. That's kind of my plan. I don't want to do it in one shot because I don't think the suspension is going to be on the car for the meetup. If I do end up going for this fall, it's probably going to be a wintertime project, and that car rides so unbelievably rough that I can't handle a 5-hour trip in one shot. I've done 2-hour trips, and by the time I get back from car shows and stuff, I'm dead at the end of the day. But I don't want to string people along too far with if the meetup's happening or not. I just want to get the car back, and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do at that point, how everything goes with the car, but I have to make sure everything's going to be good with it. I'm going to take a few longer trips, make sure that everything's okay with it overall. And then within the next couple of weeks, I'll decide. I do want to do it this year, but the other thing too is that all this has been really frustrating and really stressful on me dealing with all this. I mean, it took me 16, 17 years to finally get a Terminator Cobra, and the second year that I have it back, or that I have it for ownership, it's gone all summer long. So it's really deflated feeling that I'm barely going to have any time with it. So, then the added pressure and stress of doing the meetup, because it's a big thing to, drive out to New York with this car. So it's, maybe something I might end up pushing off until maybe May, June of next year, maybe, but I'll visit that when the time comes. Mike, the dyno video, I want to, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. That's because it could get dynoed spur of the moment. Pete may have time to just throw it on the dyno and bang it out real quick. Aaron told him if any possible way to give a heads up to let him know and let me know, because Aaron wants to go down too. So that's the plan. If we get a heads up from Pete, I'm like 2 hours away from Performance Dyno. So if I get at least a 2-hour heads up on it, I'll be able to make it down there and do it. Aaron's a lot closer than I am because he's in southern Maine. He's really close to Pete. I think he's like maybe 45 minutes away, if that. And if he said too, if he ends up going down, he's going to shoot video. I had an entire dyno video planned out in my head for how I wanted to shoot it and how the intro and everything that I wanted to do. It was really, really good, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'm okay with that, because it's more important for me to just get the car back than to, make sure I do a proper dyno video. I'm not going to tell Pete, hold on to it for like another week and a half so I can make it down on a scheduled day to do it, because I just want the car back at this point. But hopefully Aaron can get down there and get some footage, so I at least have something, and then whatever he gets for footage, I'll try and put something together as much as I can. But I have a feeling that it may not be the video that I wanted it to be, but this won't be the only dyno video. So there's definitely more things coming with the car, which I want to do later on as well. Hey, how's it going? I'm glad you can make it. Enjoy your Cobra videos too. I'm glad you finally got one. I kind of had a feeling that that's what you were going towards, and you started hinting around about, kind of getting one, and I'm like, I think he's getting a Terminator. I'm really glad you ended up getting one. It's really a nice car. I'm envious of Oxford White. I really, really wanted Oxford White. There was 5 colors that I wanted overall: Torch Red, Oxford White. I would have taken Screaming Yellow. I like Screaming Yellow a lot. Comp Orange was another one, and Sonic Blue. Those are like the 5 colors I really wanted. Zinc Yellow, a lot of people hate on it, but I've seen Zinc Yellow Cobras, and they're not as bad as what people say they are. I don't know if I would have bought one, but they are not complete crap. But I really like the Oxford White overall. Yeah, the car is not going anywhere. I do plan on keeping it for a long time. It's funny, I did a Facebook post today. I had to bring my Escape into the dealership. The auto start-stop function stopped working on it. So it's all under warranty, but I went in to get that taken care of, and they had a Corvette Z06 sitting in the dealership. So I take a picture of it with the caption of the way the Cobra market's been lately. I could probably sell mine and make a pretty good down payment on this car. So of course my Facebook blows up if everyone's like, "There's no way he's not going to do that. He wouldn't sell that for a Corvette Z06." And I'm like, "Well, you're right, but you know, it just sounded good." So I can show you guys something else too. I don't want to screw the stream up and switch to a desktop view, and I'll show you the photo that Aaron sent me. He didn't send me a really good photo of under the hood yet, because this was like probably in July. I was getting really frustrated with stuff, and he's like, "Do you want a picture of what the engine bay looks like?" And I'm like, "Yeah, give me something. I need some sort of good news." So I'm going to show you the picture that he sent me with the VMP Gen3R, and you can see the valve covers are done. So you get a general idea of what it's going to look like from this photo and from the coil cover terminator that I have to put on the coil covers for that, and with the radiator cover that's going on. You'll get a general idea of, you know, what it's going to look like, and I'll hopefully get this to focus in a little bit. I tried this earlier before the stream, and I don't know if it's going to focus now. I'm not sure how good it's going to show up, but you get the general idea. The valve covers are done. You can't see the lower pulley bridge, and you can't see the lower intake, but that's kind of why he took the picture that way. He didn't really want me to see the whole thing. He's like, "You really have to see it in person." So yeah. Yeah, that's one thing is, I mean, you guys have probably seen some of the videos recently of the 94 Cobra that I had, and that had a 351 Windsor out of a 1995 Cobra R. I have like an entire booklet of memos and internal emails from Ford during the production of the 95 Cobra R. They're all photocopied, but it's like emails from John Colati going towards other people and stuff like that. So, and I actually have the authentication letter from Roush that swap was done at Roush Industries when they dropped that 351 from the Cobra R in there. And I did a whole video on that car a long time ago. And one of the problems was that I built that car for drag racing, and I built it too much for drag racing. Sorry, I'm still getting over being sick. And the problem was that it had spherical solid bushings in it and stuff like that. So it rode really rough. So that was the main reason for why I ended up getting rid of it. At that point, it just wasn't fun to drive anymore. Yeah, that definitely makes it a lot harder. Excuse me, guys, for a minute. I'm going to try and clear my throat because, like I said, I'm still getting over being sick. I'll be back in just like 20 seconds. Hold on. I had like really bad lung inflammation from what the doctors told me, and it literally kicked my ass for like 3 weeks, and I had a fever of like almost 102 for like 3 days straight. So it was rough. Yeah, it's just hard. I mean, the COVID definitely screwed a lot of stuff up. It didn't help with like the delays that I mentioned earlier with getting parts for the Cobra that I needed. So it just added stress of everything on top of that. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I haven't got a real good look at the powder coating yet. I've been really close to going down just to want to see the car, and I've kind of made excuses to Aaron as like a way to, weasel my way down there to check it out. But he's always been like, no, you don't need to come down. But, I could have gone down and taken video of it, but I just haven't, I kind of just want to get it back. I think if I went down there and saw the car with all the powder coating done, it would have made everything a lot worse as far as wanting to get it back and having to wait even longer. At that point, it just would have really backed things up in my mind even more than it already was to begin with. Yeah, we have quite a few DMVs in my area. There's actually one that's like empty, like all the time. It's right beside a Cabela's, and it's like no one ever goes to it. And I don't know why, but that's the one I always go to, even though it's the furthest one away. Yeah, I mean, it always sucks. I mean, a lot of people say to do things on your own, and I don't disagree with that. Could I have had my Cobra done at this point if I did all the work myself? It's, who knows what problems would I have run into if I had done it myself. I'll tell you guys a little story too. I've never mentioned this before. All the stuff with the 94 Cobra that you've been seeing lately, all that work I did in that garage, the cylinder head swap, the long tubes with it up on the jack stands. I dropped the entire rear end out, had 410s put in because I don't know how to do gears. I dropped the rear end out, installed the long tubes, put the cylinder heads on. I did all that in the garage. That was a long time ago, and my back doesn't agree with me as much as it does then. But the reason why I really didn't want to tackle this project myself was mainly the fuel system and being underneath the car. Back when I first started getting into Mustangs, I had a 95 GT, and I didn't know anything about working on cars or anything at this point. There was a guy that lived a little ways away from me. He had a Fox body with a Vortec S trim, heads cam intake, ran 10.7s, made like 500 horsepower. He said he'd help me out doing an exhaust install on the car. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I go over to his house, and we're underneath the car. It's up on jack stands in his dirt driveway. And I didn't know anything about working on cars or safety or anything at that point. And we're working underneath the car, and he had the jack stands really, really high up. And the car just seemed really uneasy. So we get out from underneath the car to take a break for a little bit. And I put my hand against the quarter panel. I didn't push on it very hard. I just kind of leaned on it a little bit. And the entire thing came down on the ground. And we were just underneath there pulling on stuff and moving exhaust stuff around, trying to line stuff up. And that car came down like nothing. And in all those photos of the 94 Cobra that I had recently in the videos, I had like 6 jack stands underneath that thing, plus tires, plus supported with floor jacks whenever I was under it. And the other reason for that is because a friend of mine, a coworker, was killed several years ago from working on a car when he was underneath it. And ever since then, I've been really, really uneasy about being underneath the vehicles. What happened with the GT falling off the jack stands, and what happened with Rob when he was killed working underneath his vehicle at his home. It just really, really gets to me, and I would rather not. The VMP Gen3R install is not that hard to do. Plenty of videos on how to do that. I don't think that was difficult to do. It's being underneath the car doing the fuel system that what really got to me. And if I had like a garage with a lift, that's totally different. I would be completely up for doing it then, but I don't have that at this point in time. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to. I mean, it's still kind of with me a little bit. If you guys happen to see the video that I did announcing this live stream, I recorded that on Monday, this past Monday. I was still, the fever and stuff was gone, but it was the chest infection that was still there. It went from being in my chest, it ended up going into my sinuses, and it just really stayed with me for a long time. And yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, that's the thing too with the whole COVID stuff. I think there's been a lot of leeway. I think a lot of registrations and stuff like that, people have probably um, let that lapse, or inspections. And I don't think a lot of cops really give a crap at this point. They're probably like, they understand the situation. It may not be as lenient now as what it was, earlier in the year, but it was a lot much easier to get away with it. Yeah, that's good. I don't have any connections with DMV, but if you do, it's a good thing to have, because dealing with them can be a major, you know, pain in the ass, basically. Yeah, that's good too. And I do want to do more work on the car. I've done plenty. Like I said, with the '94 Cobra, I did all that work myself. It was fun. It was a good learning process. Whether I did everything completely right, who the hell knows? So, but a lot of people will look at this whole project overall and be like, you should have just done it yourself. And I think some people have made comments like that in a few of the videos. But the thing is that I can pay someone to do it. I have the means to do it. I don't have to. And I'm not saying that people that do the work themselves can't afford to have a shop do it. That's not the point. There's a satisfaction of doing it yourself, which, I wish I would have done this whole install on my own. But, it doesn't mean I necessarily have the time to do it on my own. The other problem, too, was there's no bass tunes for these VMP Gen3Rs. It has a tune right now where it can start up and it can run, but it can't drive. It can drive a little bit. Aaron was going to take it out when it had the coolant, the MMR coolant crossover delete on it, to make sure if it was going to leak or not. And he asked me, he said, does it have cats on it? And I'm like, yes, it does. And he said, well, I can't take it out because the car is extremely, extremely rich right now. And he said, I'll probably burn your cats out if I drive it. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm hoping that, we can't run catless here. I have to have cats on it. And even if we had the choice to, I still think it sounds better with the cats on it. I think it's not quite as raspy. The X pipe on its own makes it a little bit more raspy anyway than an H pipe would. But I think the addition of taking the cats off, it would be, that much more. And I don't really, wanted that either. Yeah, I thought about getting my friend Fred, who I went over there and we did the 276 pulley on the car. He has one of those scissor lifts. I think he got it off Harbor Freight. He has a black '03 Cobra. I used his car and my car in a thumbnail before. And he has one of those scissor lifts. It would be great to have one of those. One of the quick lifts, those are like around $1,500. Those would be nice to have too. I'd really like to have like a 2-post lift. That would be ideal. But the problem is I would probably have to redo my garage. If I was to do a lift, I mean, I have 2 bays, and I do have a fairly decent sized garage. It's 24 by 28, so it's a little bit bigger than average. I think average garage is 24 by 24. So I always thought if I do a lift, I wanted to make the garage bigger. I wanted to do like a 30 by 30 garage or 30 by 28, make it a little bit wider so I could fit a 2-post lift in there with the Cobra and my regular daily vehicle that I had. But that's, I'd have, the problem too is I can't rebuild the garage on the existing slab and make it bigger. I talked to the town about this earlier this summer. The problem is that the boundaries for property, as far as how close you can build to it, changed over the years. And the location of where my garage is grandfathered in because those guidelines changed. So I can rebuild on the slab, but I can't expand and make the slab bigger. So what I would have to do is pour a new slab somewhere else on the driveway, and then I can make it bigger at that point. But oops, sorry, hit that one. Yeah, it's it's interesting too, because a lot of people have such different exhaust setups, and it's all personal preference. Some people will say they like cats or no cats, and it's I like how mine sounds with the stingers on it. I would like to do long tubes. It's kind of tentative right now. I want to see where the power numbers come out to the way it is now. If Pete gets to do the car this weekend, I mean, I'm hoping for 650. The blower is more than capable of doing it, but the weather is going to hold me back. If it's really hot and humid, which it is, it's really humid this weekend, my power numbers are going to go down. The other thing too is the VMP that's on there is in the setup that I have is being run in the absolute lowest configuration power wise that blower is going to put out. I'm running a 3.3 pulley that it's going to be at like 18 psi and stock lower. So I have a stock lower and 3.3 upper on 93 octane. So it should be like around the 650 range. I think as a goal, I really want to break 700 with it. It's more than capable. There's a guy in one of the Gen3R Facebook groups who had Pete tune it. He's on a Torco tune, 21 psi, long tubes, and he pulled 707. And I really want the VMP 700 Club license plate frame. So I need to see where it falls right now. And I don't know, maybe I'll be completely happy. Maybe it pulls 635 and I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't know. That's what I originally thought when I put the 276 pulley on it with the Eaton. I was like, it really surprised me. It threw me back in the seat so hard. It was so much power being at 480. I'm like, I'm going to be so good with this for a long time. And that was originally dynoed in September of last year. The car went up in November. And by the time I went up in November, I was like, it's okay. I got used to it a lot quicker than I thought I would. This next jump is going to be so significantly different that I'm not sure how close or how soon I'm going to get to being comfortable at that power level. So I eventually want to add more. I would really like to add long tubes on it. I think the long tubes sound really, really good. And so that's something that I may do. I think I missed some chats earlier on. There was someone that jumped in. Yes. Sabrina Guzman, sup, Cobra buddies. Welcome. I'm not sure if you new to the stream or if you comment much on the videos, but if you're new, welcome. I think I missed that one earlier. I think that's when I started to get my coughing spell. Let me see where I left off in chat. Yeah, 650 would be a monster, and that's the thing is like the difference between 650 and 700 power-wise and how it feels probably isn't like a massive jump. It's not going what I'm going from now from 480 to 600 plus. That's a pretty significant jump. So I have to weigh the factors of what is it going to cost to get me to 700 versus is it really worth it? I mean, I may just leave it wherever it's at. Always have the option too of taking that 3.3 pulley off and putting on a 3.2 or 3.0 and spinning it up to like 20, 21 psi, and throwing Torco in there and having Pete tune it on a Torco tune and seeing where that gets me without long tubes as well. So, and that's an option as well. Yeah, I think it's funny too because I'm on a lot of the Facebook Cobra groups, and you see people asking all the time, "What do I do for exhaust? What's the best exhaust?" And a lot of people say just put broiler stingers on it. Stock manifolds sound great. I mean, the way mine sounds, I mean, I have no issues at all with how the car sounds at all. If I do long tubes, it's because I've heard, not in person, but in videos, I've heard Cobras with long tubes, catted mid pipes with broiler stingers, and it's another level of how good it really sounds, even though the stock manifolds do sound extremely well. And I'd have no problem keeping that sound, but it's just a matter of, do I want to, does the power benefit of the long tubes worth the price? Because if I do long tubes, I want to do AHR long tubes with their mid pipe, and that's like $1,700 for that setup. So I really have to weigh my option of if it's worth doing that or not for the power output. Yeah, it's just the Bassani Catted X's they sound so good. I actually got my Bassani Catted X from someone in Mass. I got in touch with him right after I bought it. He had a post of, I think it was a Bassani exhaust system and the X pipe for sale, and I actually had the flow tubes with it too, so it could be converted from off-road X to Catted X. And this was back during COVID last summer, when we weren't really like allowed to go anywhere, like out of state, at least as far as my work goes and that stuff. But I was faced with, I had a car, when I got the car originally, it had an off-road X pipe on it, and I couldn't get a sticker on it. So I could either run it for the rest of the summer with no sticker, or get that off-road X pipe off and get one with cats on it. So I saw his ad for sale. He was down in Mass. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care about the COVID restrictions. I'm going to go down to Mass, because I was either going to have to pay $600 plus for a Bassani Catted X, and I got this one used for $350. So I felt it was a much better option just to take a trip down to Mass and just not tell anyone and come back. And I'm glad and actually the guy that sold it to me, he has a comp orange Cobra, and I don't know. I'll try, and I don't know if you would want me to put pictures of it in a video, but oh my God, that engine bay is unbelievable. He has a VMP 2.3 on it. That car is so unbelievably clean. Unbelievable. It's the cleanest Terminator I have ever seen. And I saw that thing and I'm like, you know what? I want my car to look like that someday. Like all the bolts for like the cam covers and the lower intake and everything had all been replaced with like these high-end fittings and everything else. They weren't the stock factory fittings anymore for bolts and washers and all that stuff. It just looked unbelievable. And I know I'd like to take the car down to Mass again at some point and meet up with him at that point. Yeah, very, very popular with Stinger. I mean, you can't go wrong, honestly. My Whipple 2.3, I'm at 621, 595 with a 3.5 upper, and if I go with a 3-inch grip tech upper, I'll be close to 700, but I believe that 621 or 650 is plenty scary for a while, yeah. With the time that I have left with mine for this year, once I get it back, I don't see a repeat of what happened last year with where I get used to the power level by the time I put it up. You start breaking 600, it's a lot of power. And I've been in Cobras that were over 600, other Terminators that were over 600, been in STIs that were pushing over 400 with all-wheel drive. I've been in really fast cars before, but I've never owned one at that level. Currently, the way the Cobra was before I went to DRK Performance was the fastest, most powerful vehicle that I'd ever owned. So this jump is going to be quite significant. And the other thing too is my traction control is permanently turned off within the tune. So I have to be really careful not to become a meme and stuff it into a tree or a telephone pole or something like that, because the R888Rs are really good tires. I've gotten on it extremely hard in some videos that I've done and just messing around with the car, not recording videos. And the R888Rs hold really well. I'm not sure where they're going to be at this power level. Maybe they'll still be good. I might have to jump up to a drag radial just for the factor of knowing that I have a little bit more of a safety cushion there. But we'll see when we get there. Plus, like, all tires are so hard to get right now. You've been over the car for so long, it feels like a totally different car. Yeah, that's the thing too, is it's going to feel like getting the car all over again like I first did. And on my way to work, I drive by this spot where the car was dropped off, and the very first spot where I filmed any video on it. It was sent with a transport company, and the guy, I was in contact with him on his way up. I had plans to meet him at the mall down in Portland, which is like 40 minutes away from me, but it's a big open parking lot. And the plan was to pick it up there, but he said, well, he told me where his shop was, and it was like 10 minutes away from my house. I'm like, well, that's perfect. And I remember the first time when I saw the car, I had a friend with me, and we pulled into the lot where where he dropped the car off at. And the first time I saw it, I wish I told my friend to record it, because I can't imagine what the look on my face was when I first saw it, because it's like you spend all this time and all these years wanting a car like this for so long, and then you finally get it. And I had all kinds of delays. The car was a week late being shipped up here because of a hurricane that came up the entire East Coast, so they weren't going to ship the car at that time. So even getting in the car, like, everything with this car has been delayed ever since I've had it. So to finally get it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And now with getting it back again, with it being gone all summer, and then with all the changes that have been done to it, it's not the same car anymore. And that's always been the plan all along with this, is that I was hoping I wouldn't have mind getting a Terminator that was modded. That would have been fine. It doesn't mean I would have kept it that way. If it had a Whipple or a Kenny Bell, I would have still put the VMP on it. I just always really wanted a VMP, and everyone has their opinions about what's better, all that stuff. And like I said in the video that I did a while ago, they all make boost and they all make power, because one pulls 20, 30 more than another one on the dyno. It doesn't really matter. They're all quality blowers. And I will say Kenny Bell seem to have fallen behind a little bit. They don't have the updates as much as Whipple and VMP have, but people still buy them just because they scream so much. So that's, they do have that factor going for them. 600 to 650 is more reliable. These engines are massively expensive to rebuild. 700 is just a number. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I said earlier, is that I really have to weigh the options of, is it worth making that jump from 650 to 700 just to get the number, with the costs involved with doing it? That's something that I have to weigh over time as after I get the car back. And I agree that 600 to 650 is extremely reliable. These motors are built so well that you can push way more than that and still be okay. But in order to be like really, really okay, staying under the 700 mark is good. And the other issue that I'm going to run into too, and I'm going to do a video on this after I get the car back, just to give you guys a little bit of preview of what I'm going to talk about in that video, is I have a major problem when I do get the car back. Some of the stock components are not going to hold up anymore. It still has a stock clutch in it. I just wanted to survive the dyno. If it holds up for the summer, that's great. It's a double-edged sword. I want to hammer on the car to feel what it's like with that VMP on there, but at the same time, I know my clutch is still completely stock, and the car does have 78,000 miles on it now. So I'm not sure how much life is left in that clutch. And the other issue too is the half shafts. I was told the car had FTBR bushings in it when I bought it. I don't think they do. I've been up underneath the car when I've had it up before, taking close-up pictures, sent them off to FTBR, and they said it doesn't look like they're bushings. So I don't know what went on with that as far as them telling me that I had it, and then it really didn't. But the wheel hop factor, breaking half shafts, and the clutch are issues that I really need to address with the car. I would love to take it to the track just to get one run in. I mostly want a mile per hour because I'm not going to pull a good time and I'm not going to launch it hard, but I just want a mile per hour, so I might do that, but we'll see. Yeah, 621 is definitely a good number. It's just so easy to make power with these cars. I mean, you could put almost any of the aftermarket blowers and hit 600. It's not hard. I mean, that's the real good advantage of having these Terminators. There's a lot of good tuners out there too. I'm lucky that Performance Dyno has been regarded as one of the top guys out there to work on these cars, and 03 Redfire SVT had his done there as well when I did that video. And before he showed up that day, I had the privilege of talking with Pete for quite a while, and he told me a lot of the stuff that he does different with the Terminators that other people don't do, and it was really interesting. I don't want to go too much in depth about what he does, not because it's like some big secret, but because I don't want to misinterpret what he said, because the way he explained it made a lot of sense. But what I recall from that conversation and trying to explain it would be a little bit, I don't want to mislead people on what he does with the tunes, but there are things that he does with these cars that other people don't do. And when 03 Redfire SVT had his car dyno there, I'm still extremely salty that he pulled 20 more rear wheel horsepower than I did. It's like, it's my channel. I'm supposed to have more power than someone that I do a video on. So that was like, oh man, he pulled more horsepower than me. That's crazy. But the thing was that you had really good weather that day, which was a huge factor. And the one big plus with having my car worked on at the shop is being towed down. So it's going to be the same situation. It's going from off the trailer onto the dyno, and it's going to rip the numbers off with an engine that's not heat soaked and a blower that's not heat soaked. Where I drove mine down to Performance Dyno that day, it was probably already heat soaked and everything else. And they were, I don't know if you saw the comments in that video, but people were saying that he didn't really pull 503 with I think you have a 2.8 pulley on there and exhaust. You know, they were saying that there was something off with the dyno, and a lot of people have said that about Performance Dyno, that he has like a happy dyno. That's not the case. He was in really good weather that day, which was a big factor, and just the stuff that Pete does is really good with these cars. And you know, I wouldn't. The other thing too is I could have had Kevin Dunn do a tune. I could have had the car picked up weeks and weeks ago and not wait for a spot to open at Performance Dyno. And I could have just had a remote tune done, and I could have been driving the car right now. But I'm not about burning bridges. I don't want to burn bridges with Performance Dyno. I don't want to burn bridges with Aaron. I need both of them for future stuff. And the reason why Pete is so backed up is because he is so good at what he does. The demand is extremely high, so that's speaks volumes for why he's so busy all the time. I have not heard of them before, but there are a lot of good tuners out there. Kevin Dunn does amazing remote tuning. Oh, nice. I didn't know that your motor was built. So that's definitely definitely an added benefit for sure. ARP bolts, studs, balance, and blueprint. That's really nice. That's something that you could throw tons of power to and you wouldn't have to worry about it. So there's always that option if you ever wanted to go, past that 600 mark. Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. So my only issue is that, like I said, with the stock bushings that are still in the back, is if I start getting bad wheel hop and start breaking half shafts, because my friend Fred that has the black Terminator that's been on the channel before, he broke his half shaft. He has a Whipple 2.3 on it. He's putting out between 600, 650. He's somewhere in there. I don't remember his exact numbers, but he had drag radials, and he took someone out for a ride, and he got on it pretty hard, and that's all it took, snapped them. So our AAA-Rs definitely don't grab as hard as a drag radial does, but the fact that my bushings are such crap in the IRS that I would probably still get a lot of wheel hop and stuff like that. So it's between the IRS and the clutch, those are things that do need to be addressed. Yeah, it was. I still wish that I had it recorded. That day was so much stuff in my head that day when I picked the car up that it was just unreal. So it was definitely an experience, but I regret not having it filmed, because I would have been nice to see the expression on my face when I pulled into that lot and saw an actual Terminator Cobra that was mine. And that's something that I'll never forget, but I wish I did have it on video. Yeah, I know that feeling all too well, noisy on highway. Otherwise, okay. 650 is a lot, and it really is. It's way past 700 engine power, so I'd be happy with anything in the 600. Mine made 652 with a non-R, and the pull was only to 6300. Yeah, that's the thing too, Justin, and thanks for popping in too. Yours pulled really good numbers, and that was on 91 octane too. And I'm not sure what your weather was like that day, but that, for being a non-R and being on 91 octane, and your pull was only up to 6,300. I mean, that's why I'm really wondering where mine's going to fall, because I see different dynos all the time for what people have pulled, and I always try to compare their mods to what I have and what they have done, and it's like it's really, it's hard to pinpoint it because you don't really know, because every tuner is different, every dyno is different, every weather condition is different. But if I fall in that 650 range with what I have done without long tubes and not a Torco tune or a boost stain tune, only doing 18 psi, I would be more than ecstatic at that point that I made numbers like that. But hopefully I find out this weekend. I really hope that I get a call tomorrow saying, hey, it's being done, come down. But if not, it should be early in the next few days when the week starts. Whipple gives you tunes of the blowers too. Good thing. Oh, that's a good thing. I didn't know they did that. I don't think VMP does that. Maybe if you buy directly from them, but I bought mine through SK Performance. I think they're in Oklahoma. I got a really good deal on that entire VMP kit. It's listed on Lethal Performance and on the VMP site for $5,400, but I got the entire thing with the single blade throttle body, the 5-inch intake, the slot, mass air. I got the entire thing for $4,800 shipped. So it was significantly less than having to pay retail price, because my plan was to not even get the blower until like this year during like a Black Friday sale that Lethal Performance usually does, because they drop it down to less than $5,000 for that blower at that point. So that's kind of where I was at. I was going to wait until that point to do it, but I had enough money put away to get it over this last winter. And I reached out on the VMP Gen3R Facebook page and said, who can get me the best price for this thing? And I had several people contact me, and the company that I went with was the best option. And I had some that were a few $100s more. I had one person tell me that they can't get lower than what it's already listed at, which is not true. So, but it was on a 3.0 upper. They were making 21 PSI. The real benefit to long tubes would be dropping the boost and running safer on pump gas. Yeah, from what I understand, running long tubes, you're probably going to run anywhere from 2 to 3 PSI less is generally what I've heard. And I'd be okay with that. I might run, I might do the same thing, run a 3.0 upper with maybe long tubes, but because the boost would, I want to keep the boost below 20. That's kind of the goal, because you start getting above 20 with these motors, and that's on pump gas, and that's kind of pushing the boundaries of where you want to be with them from what I've heard. And I don't want to get into that situation. I don't want to run around making sure I always have boosting or Torco to dump in the tank either. Yeah, McLeod RXC for the win. That's basically what I'm going to get. When I get the clutch, it's definitely what I'm going to go with. I'm going to grab another water and clear my throat again. I'll be right back, guys. That was my biggest concern with doing this live stream tonight, was even though I feel significantly better than I did, I didn't know how talking for a significant amount of time was going to work out for me. It's been all right, but I'm definitely feeling it more in my voice and in my chest than when I started. 18 to 19 PSI, 93 octane, and a splash of Torco for insurance, and the engine will live a really long time. Yeah, I've thought about doing that too, is just, running Torco just for the added insurance, just to have it, not have to worry about it. Because if you're tuned at 93 and you throw a can of Torco in there, that's definitely a good option to do. Yep, definitely. My friend Fred definitely had experienced that. And I don't want to break stuff on this car. If it breaks, it breaks. That's part of, you can't mod a car and drive it hard and expect nothing to ever break. But if it does, I'll fix it. I've always said from the beginning that as long as nothing happens internally with the motor, I'm okay with anything else breaking. If I break the T56, blow the clutch, blow the rear end, blow a half shaft, that can all be fixed easy. I just don't want to do anything with hurting the engine on this. 10-hour round trip for 20 minutes on the dyno, definitely worth it. If you forgot, it was 503, 507. Yeah, it's like I told you before you went, it's going to take Pete longer to strap the car onto the dyno than it is for him to tune it. I think he did yours in basically 2 pulls as well. Mine was 2 pulls and it was done. It's such a he's done so many of those pulleys on an Eaton tune with exhaust. He probably copy pasted my tune and put it into yours basically because it's about the same for that setup. And a lot of that's the other thing too is people think I've had people say, yeah, my car was on the dyno for like this amount of time, and it was like 5, 6, 8 pulls, whatever it took. If it's a not like an out of the box setup, a competent tuner should be able to do it in a couple pulls, hopefully. The VMPs have not been, he hasn't done as many of those. I didn't ask the other guy that pulled 707 how many pulls that it took him to do it, but it's not quite as simple as doing a Eaton pulley tune that he's more used to, but we'll see when I get mine done. I kind of messed up the chat here a little bit. I used to run Torque, but switched to boosting because my engine likes it better, and boosting has a long shelf life. Yeah, that's a good point too. They're both good, but I haven't looked too much into which one I would go with. I've been back and forth on both. I guess it's a matter of shelf life is definitely important, especially if it sits for a while. I heard Center Force are the best. I have McLeod on mine, but 3 of my friends have broke their McLeod. Yeah, and that's something I've come across as well, reading forums and stuff. You'll have people say spec, McLeod, Center Force. I had Center Force in my 94 Cobra. I burned one of them and replaced it with one, and it was, second one was good. I did 5,000 RPM clutch dumps with the Center Force that was in the 94 Cobra, and it hooked and it went. The other thing too is when it comes to the clutches, are they replacing all the stuff that should be replaced? Was it everything aligned right? Because you can put in a clutch and not have it done right, and it will screw everything up and burn the clutch out if all the if the install wasn't done correctly. And I think that's where some of the issues come from. People saying this clutch isn't as good as this one. You have to look at how it was installed too. And it's not that any of these clutches can't have malfunctions or anything like that, but it is something to consider when I do my clutch at some point, because it's going to have to be done. I want to do a new pivot ball, new clutch fork, new throwout bearing, forward one, of course. All that's going to be new. I just want to redo all those components inside there, so it's all new and don't have to worry about anything else going, because it doesn't make any sense to do the clutch and not do the throwout bearing at the same time. I may be able to get away with not doing the clutch fork, but they're like $60. Why would you, not do it if you're in there and it has to be done anyway? So that's kind of my thought process on it. I don't want to go back into a part of the car again to replace something that could have been done before. So they all broke from the same spot, from the forks, from the clutch, where you push the clutch in. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if that was either a defect with something, or like I just said, where if maybe something wasn't done right with the install. It's really hard to tell. I mean, hindsight's 2020, and it's really hard to know. But that's why it's important to have reliable shops too. Like in my situation where I have no problem taking the car back to Aaron and DRK Performance to have him do more stuff on the car, because I have faith in the work they do. Bradford's Rides, hello. Thanks for stopping in. Good to see you. It's good that some people are friends with each other. always find that interesting too is I actually came across a different Cobra channel that I never watched before the other day. He doesn't do a lot of videos, but Terminator, and there was some other people too. I think Mike's Garage had commented on there too, and there was other people. It was this younger kid. I can't remember the name of the channel. The younger kid, he has a zinc yellow with a Kenny Bell on it. And you guys will probably remember I was looking at the comments, and it's like all you guys that watch my stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, it's interesting to see you come across other people that you interact with all the time, and all those comments that you guys had left were from either weeks or months ago. Because when I stumbled on this channel, it was obviously the videos he had done was already out long before I found it. With RXT on my Boss Calmer Stage 3 Trans, that's going to be pretty sick. I've heard a lot of good things about Calmer and his builds, and that's going to be a really nice setup. RX2, we ran the same clutch, but I don't drive my car nowhere near how as my buddy do. Only drive the car once a week, 2 times at the most. When I did my clutch, I replaced all of it and got the adjustable cable from Ford Performance. Yeah, mine does have an adjustable quadrant on it now. That was part of the stuff that I had done with everything else with the car at the shop. My clutch is not my clutch, but my cable was really bad. 03 Redfire SVT. When I did the video on his Cobra at Performance Dyno, when he pulled 503 and 507, I had him get in there and press in my clutch, and I'm like, it's everyone that has done that has said, oh my God, that is unbelievably stiff. My friend Mike, when I did the video on the 2000 Cobra R, and Pete at Performance Dyno, he said the same thing. He's like, what the hell's up with your clutch? And the consensus is that it wasn't the stock cable that was in there. It was an aftermarket cable, which is a big no-no. A lot of people will not put factory parts back on, but when it comes to Mustangs, you always use the Ford throw-up bearings, and you always use the Ford clutch cable. The only other clutch cable I would consider using would be the Maximum Motorsports one. Those seem to do really well. A lot of good feedback with those ones. But that was the other thing too, is my car was just really doesn't drive the best, and it doesn't handle the best because of the Maximum Motorsports coilovers that are on there. Not a good street car, which is what I'm turning it back into. And part of that too was the clutch was just so stiff. So I had Aaron throw on one of the double hook adjustable quadrants and a Ford OEM cable back on there. So hopefully the drivability factor is much better than it was, and I'm, don't wear out my calf muscles just trying to drive it around. Yeah, that's the other thing too. You'll hear a lot of different opinions on that. Some people throw the clutch on and they just immediately start beating on it, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I would rather take the proper braking period. When I had the 94 Cobra and had the clutch replaced in that with the center force, as a center force dual friction that I had put back in, I did the proper braking on that. And like I said earlier, I was going to the track and doing 5,000 RPM clutch dumps off the line with slicks on it. And it held, and I think it held because it was probably broken in properly. I wouldn't chance spending the money, especially on an RXT, and not doing it right, because you're just gonna have to go back in there and spend the money again. And those clutches aren't cheap; they're like $900. I don't want to buy 2 of them. Yeah, that's what I heard too, is the pedal pressure is really good on those, and my pedal pressure is horrid. It's really bad. 03 Red Fire SVT can definitely attest to that. That it's that it's bad, and I don't notice it. I mean, this is the first standard that I had within 4 years. I had been without a standard. I had a 2016 WRX that I had before the Cobra, and I sold that when I bought the house that I have now because I needed a truck. So I got rid of the WRX when I moved in, and that was 4 years ago. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be driving a standard again for the first time in 4 years. Am I gonna stall it all the time? Which to this day I have not stalled the Cobra yet. So I did good for not driving one for 4 years, but man, that clutch is so bad. The pedal pressure, yeah, see, it's super stiff. And I think a lot of it has to do with that cable. And the other thing too is when you look at where it goes into the firewall, you can see a little bit of the cable coming through. It's rusted too. So I think the cable is just in really bad shape. And the fact that it wasn't a Ford OEM cable on top of it just made it that much worse. It was auto swap, the problems disappear. That's funny too, because I left a comment on Mustang Lifestyle, Andrew's video that he did recently I don't know if you guys know, if you watch him or not, I know a lot of people do, but he has an 03 Cobra convertible, but it's like the bastard Cobra of all the purists out there. And I left the comment because it has a Coyote swap in it for one thing, but he still calls it a Terminator, but I think he does that to troll people. He knows that it's not really a Terminator because a Terminator was, of course, the code name for the engine, not necessarily the car. It's still a Cobra, but it's not a Terminator Cobra. So I think he does that on purpose just to kind of piss people off. But it's auto swap for one thing. It's got a Coyote engine in it, and he's talking about pulling out the IRS to do a solid rear axle. So I left a comment that it's like you're just pissing off all the Cobra purists out there, and he commented back with like laughing about it. So, but it's like sacrilege to put an auto in a Cobra, or especially engine swap it. And the solid rear axle is a little more popular, but that was one of the criteria that I had for when I was looking to buy a Cobra, that I was not going to buy one with a solid rear axle, because most of the time when you see a solid rear axle done, it was probably because it was drag race, more likely than not. And I just didn't want to take that chance of getting one that was beat on at some point, drag raced a lot, anything like that. Bought an extra motor last week just to have, and I noticed it had a brand new clutch. I was happy to see an extra clutch and not an RXT. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you if you had bad luck with a certain brand. I don't blame you for not wanting it, whether it was the install that wasn't done right, and I don't know if you did it or a friend or a shop did it, or anything like that. I'm not like putting blame on any of them, or if it was just the fact that it was just a bad run of RXT clutches. It's the same situation that I'm in with MMR. The whole coolant crossover delete debacle has delayed everything with a Cobra by a month, and I will not have anything MMR on my car, which I showed this earlier in the stream. Some of you may have been here for, other ones may have not, but I have the MMR head cooling mod that came with the car, which I got for nothing. I didn't pay for this. It came with the car, and I'm not putting it on the car because I just hate MMR so much right now. I would rather sell that and spend money on something before I put that on the car. It would probably be completely fine, and I save money from buying a head cooling mod, but I'm at the same, situation as you, where you get burned by a product and you just don't use it anymore. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm a purist in a way, not a fan of Coyote and a Cobra. No, that's, I think there are some things you can get away with with these Cobras, and as far as a motor swap, it would be a little more accepted. But putting a Coyote swap in, I mean, that's, and nothing against Mustang Lifestyle. I mean, he bought the car with his swap already done, and I think he wanted something a little more out of the box for why he went that route for getting this car. So I don't blame him at all. I mean, it's cool to see something different. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I would never Coyote swap a Terminator Cobra. And Kyle, glad you could pop in. I watch Kyle's stuff all the friggin' time. Love his channel, love his Cobra, because we both have torch reds, and it's scientifically proven that torch red is the fastest Cobra out there, until 03 Redfire SVT proved me wrong and pulled 20 more on the dyno than I did. But he cheated because he towed it, so. But I'll get him back because mine's being towed this time too. Well, if you want to buy it, if you want to buy that head cooling mod, I'd sell it to you. Let me look up how much they are new. I'm not looking to make any huge profit on the damn thing. I just don't want it anymore. If you're not on my Instagram, it's linked in all my videos. You can send me a message through Instagram. I'll throw you a price, and if we agree on it, you're more than welcome to have it. Almost as bad as an LS swap, yeah. It's funny too, because I have the dichotomy at work is interesting. We have some die-hard Chevy GM people there. And there's one other guy at work that I work with that has a Mustang. He's got a stage 1 Roush, and he's got some work done to it. It's got a Boss intake. It's been tuned. It's got a cold air intake on it. It puts out, I think he put out 450, 460, right around there a little bit. And he actually has a Gen 2 Coyote in it. It's a 2011, but he blew his first motor. And so he had a Gen 2 Coyote put in. And he puts out good power, and I really, really wanted to race him when I had the Eaton on the Cobra, but that didn't happen. It would have been a good race, but I would have won because I'm just a better driver. It would have been a fun race. He's a younger kid. He's in his 20s and has a lot to learn about life, but I wanted to remind him where he is on the food chain, because I've always had the fastest car at work, and it's really bothered me the past few years of not having a Mustang, and then some kid rolls in with a Roush. I'm like, what the hell is this? Torch red for the win. Yes, it's a gray color, and I didn't have Redfire as one of my top 5 colors that I wanted, but when I saw 03 Redfire SVT's Cobra on the dyno and actually saw Redfire in person, it really changed my opinion on it. It's not that I didn't like it. It just didn't look the way that I thought it would, but I really love that deep, dark red that Torch Red has, and it looks a lot like the Rio Red that my 94 Cobra was. I just always like the deeper color tones on any performance car like that. I'm a purist too. LS swaps really irk me. Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing, is that LS swaps are so convenient because they're cheap. Chevy swaps are cheap, and that's why a lot of people do them. But when you start mixing brands like that, it can get a lot of heated arguments and stuff. And what I was saying too about the dichotomy at work is one of my good friends just bought a Challenger a little while ago, so there's a little tension back and forth between us now. It's not a Hellcat, and he knows mine's going to come out to be much faster than that, but it's still good to have a little back and forth with him all the time. You guys see who else is Cody swapping that car lethal performance? A lot of people were mad. Who was it that's also doing the Coyote swap? I'm not sure if I missed that, or was it Lethal Performance that has one that they're doing a swap on? That's the reason why I pulled so much. Is my truck trailer and car are red. Yeah, that helped too. I noticed that too. That you had the whole red theme going, so that definitely helped with power. So there were I mean, the people that were saying you didn't pull those numbers for that, you really didn't pull it, that the dyno was happy, that really gets to me, because mine pulled 20 less with the same exact setup, where the only difference was the weather. People never account for that. If Pete's dyno was high, then the number would have been much bigger gap than what it was at only 20 at the wheels. That was a direct result of the car being pulled off the trailer and being cold, nothing heat soaked. And the temperature was, I can't remember what the temperature was that day. I know it was a cold and rainy day. And I want to say it was probably like in the upper 40s or mid 40s. I think it was that day that we went down. And those two factors together equals why you pulled, over 500 with just a 2.8 with exhaust and an intake. I mean, that was really, really good numbers for that setup. Okay, I'll send you a message on Instagram later from my wife's Instagram. I don't have one. Okay, I'm off this weekend from work, so I'll definitely get back to you. And after I'm done with the stream, I'll look up what those cost. I'll give you a good deal on it. I'm not going to charge you full price for it. But you have the Bassani Catted X, right? I've been thinking about making my car a bit louder. Yes, mine does have the Bassani Catted X. Honestly, it sounds really good. I mean, I have that clip at the end of pretty much all of my videos of the drive-by at the end of the video, and it sounds really a really good deep tone to it. I think the Bassani Catted X is probably as popular of an option as just the Boulder Stingers on their own, because a lot of people love the Stingers and a lot of people really love the Bassani Catted X, and you can't go wrong with that combo. I would suggest trying to find one used, because the brand new ones are pretty damn expensive. I think they're over $600, but hopefully you can find one used, because a lot of people for some reason don't like cats. But I think it sounds really, I think these 4.6 dual lever head cam motors with a catted mid pipe and a good cat back, it's really, really hard to beat that. Youth Performance, the owner, it's a blue Whipple 03, makes like $850. That's crazy. And I did that video a long time, last summer, with why I'm not building a 750 horsepower Cobra, with all the issues that come with it, because you deal with traction, you deal with belt slip. It's always like Mustang Lifestyle has a 1300 horsepower GT 500 at the wheels, 1300. It's just an absolute monster. But every time you see him drive that, it's like a complete wheel spinning machine down the road. I'm sure it's fun as hell to drive that thing, but there's like zero traction. And that's like my big thing with making like really huge numbers with mine. I mean, like I said earlier in the stream, that I maybe will entertain the thought of trying to break 700, but you start going more than that, and it's like, it's so hard to keep traction, and the safety factor at that too. Yeah, just do the Bassani without cats. Plenty loud. Yeah, it is pretty loud without cats. I haven't run a non-catted car for a long time. The 94 Cobra, I do have a video of it running in a garage with an off-road X-pipe and Magnapacks. And it's unbelievably loud. It's the loudest car I've ever had. And it was a matter of a couple of weeks before I put cats back on it, because I couldn't sit with someone in the seat next to me and have a conversation. It was so loud. It was unreal. And it was shortly after that I put regular MagnaFlows back on it. The last video that I did, that was with the AccuFob long tubes, the catted mid pipe, and MagnaFlow catback. And that, if I had to compare the sound of that one to my Terminator now, it's a really tough call, because that 351 sounded so good with that exhaust setup on it. The reason my fascination with the Cobra is that the engine was handled by two-man team. It's a lot of people don't understand a lot of things about these cars. I don't know if you guys do a lot of Facebook group stuff, but there's one Facebook group called New Edge Nation that I left a while ago because they're just a bunch of arrogant friggin' pricks, basically, where if you show up and you have a Cobra, they shit all over you. And it's like, I can make the same power with my 2-valve. And it's like, great, you can build 2 valves to be really powerful and make as much power as a Cobra does, maybe not for the same money, but they don't understand why people get these cars. The limited production, the fact that it was hand built, you have certificate with your build number on it. There's all that stuff. When I did the video on the GT350, why I bought the Cobra over that, I was looking at buying a GT350 used. That was the plan for a little while before I, settled on actually wanting the Cobra, because it's what I really wanted. And people don't, they don't seem to understand that. I could have bought like a brand new GT or slightly used one for not much more than what I paid, but it's just the rarity factor of having something with a 2-year run, and you have all that documentation with the car and the history behind the car. And not many people can say your engine was built by a 219 with a plaque of who built it. I mean, you don't get that with the GT. You don't get that with a lot of cars in general. I had both types of exhaust, and they are very close to equal. Yeah, definitely a lot of really good options, which is good for everybody, because everyone's preference for what they think sounds better is obviously going to change, but having those options is what's the most important thing. No traction is no fun. Definitely not. With the traction control turned off on mine, like I said before, and it's turned off in the tune, I can't turn traction control back on. It's gone sideways on me a couple times, broken loose, and I didn't buy the car to baby it. If I were ever to buy another Cobra, that would be the one that stays in the garage. It stays stock, and it doesn't get driven hard at all. This one I bought to drive it, to mod it, and to have fun with it. And that's why I didn't buy a 20,000 mile or 30,000 mile Cobra, because I didn't want to pay the extra money for a lower mileage one, for one that I was going to drive anyway. And I don't like New Age Nation either. I consistently have to defend the Cobras. Yeah. I don't think it's the entire group that's bad. I think there's a few bad people in there, but why they keep them, I don't know. I think that page has so much potential if they just got rid of the shit people that are in there. I don't get that. And I don't understand. Like, I'm completely fine with what anyone else owns, whether it's a EcoBoost 4-cylinder or a GT, whether it's a new one or whatever their preferences. It's like, I'm not going to complain about what someone else spends their money on, but then some of these people just have the inclination to just to crap on anyone that has a Cobra. I don't know if it's they're envious and salty, or they feel as like inferiority complex or something like that. But I don't know. There's definitely, and I've even found that in like other general Mustang groups that I'm in, where it's like, what happened to Ford versus Chevy or Dodge? There's so much infighting with who owns what for, within the Mustang community. Mike's Garage Talk, keep it down around 650 to 700. I'm going to start on my car next week or two. I wanted 800, but Mike said slow it down. Yeah, 800's a lot. It's definitely a lot. The 600 I'm going to be at is going to be substantial, whatever it comes out to, whether it's over 650 or just under 650. Talking about a lot of power, and there's a lot of vehicles out there now that make so much more right from the factory, like the new GT500s, Hellcat, stuff like that, where it's just factory. They're putting out power like that, but they have so much more technology built in to help control that, where these Terminators don't have that. If you're in a situation like me where your traction control is turned off, you have zero fallbacks for safety at that point. You don't have all this built-in technology that's going to help you if something goes sideways really quick. Yep, I'm actually on a little longer than I thought it would be, but I'm glad you could make it. SVT is about it, even that can get rough sometimes. Yeah, there's definitely some people with some complexes on SVT performance. I don't. I'm on the Facebook page and I'm on the website too. I've see you post on there too, and sometimes it's almost like I don't know everything about these cars. I'm still learning a lot. Just because someone has one doesn't mean they're an expert at all, and I'm definitely not. There's still a lot of things I want to learn and know about these cars. And sometimes I get the feeling that when you post something on SVTP, they expect everyone to know everything about these cars. And if you post something where there isn't the knowledge already built in, they kind of like talk down to you. It's like, or tell you to search it. And the thing is, I've used a search on there a lot, and the search is complete crap. You can barely find anything on there. So the search thing is busted up, and so it doesn't help. So you get a lot of repeat questions on there from newer people that have these cars, but then you have the people that have had them a long time since the very beginning that are very knowledge-based, but then they kind of talk down to some of the people that may not be as knowledgeable about it. Well, this stream is running pretty long, and there's some more people in here that weren't here earlier. So I'm going to show you guys some of the mods on the car that I did at the beginning, some of the stuff going on the car. I already showed the MMR head cooling mod, which I'm not keeping. I have these coil covers that are going on. The valve covers are now painted red, along with the lower intake, and the pulley bridge are powder coated wrinkle black. And I have the radiator cover from Harpel Autofab, and I also have a pair of hood struts because this can't go on with the prop rod, so you have to run hood struts once you get a radiator cover. And the other thing that I got, pair of HR Sport springs. And Coney, whoops, I keep hitting that. Shocks and struts. I'm getting rid of the coilovers. So it's going to have a traditional suspension setup with the springs and these are also adjustable. They're so that will help too with the ride quality as far as softening it up a little bit. I just wanted to show you guys that stuff real quick that may not have been here a little bit earlier when I showed it off. Speaking of SVTP, the book is on its way to me for signing it. It's been 7 months I asked to be put on the list. Yeah, it takes a long time for that book. It's really unfortunate. I remember we had a conversation about the original book was lost, and it sucks that someone did that. It's a real important piece of history that hopefully John Claudy gets one day. I don't know how long they're going to keep the book running before they send it off to him, but it's good that you're getting it, though. Hopefully a few more people are going to get it from the video that I did on it. I was happy to be the last person in 2020 to sign it, so I thought that was pretty neat, where I was like ending a year, and then the next person ahead of me was starting off for 2021. Yeah, the search was broken because they upgraded the site a few years back. Yeah, you can definitely tell that it's in need of some upkeep, and they obviously haven't done it. That's the thing with Facebook groups being so popular now. A lot of forums have really fallen off as far as maintenance or even being used at all. Just not as popular as it used to be, which was unfortunate because Facebook groups really aren't the best either. They pick on newbies, but how are you going to learn without asking? You just don't get those. Yeah, that's the thing. You have these cars that are, 17, 18 years old at this point. They're getting close to 20 years old. The knowledge base on them is extensive, but you still have people looking to buy these cars. I have people comment on videos of, I hope to get one of these someday. You have people, I see posts all the time in one of the Cobra for sale groups, people looking to buy them that want one. So even almost 20 years later, there's still people that are just starting out learning about these things. And it's important that they get put into this like in a welcome manner, where everyone can't be like really abrasive towards them just because they're asking newer questions about the car. And that's kind of how I felt at first too. But now that I have some knowledge base on these cars, I'm at the point where I can help other people with questions and stuff, even though I'm still learning a lot myself. But it's like I know where they are because I was just there a year ago, and even before I bought the car, I was learning as much as I could, soaking in as much information as I could, trying to expand my knowledge base on it. I never understood picking on newbies, just help them. We're all noobs. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all started out with whatever hobby or anything. You were new at one point. You didn't just know everything from the start, and everyone's knowledge base starts at the bottom and eventually goes up, but you can't, chastise those that are trying to learn. I have a 10R80 that makes around 940 to the wheels, and I know our cars with 650 to 700 feel the same crazy feel I get from that's 550. Yeah, it's such big numbers. It's hard to wrap your head around. 900, 1,000, even 850 is a lot. That's the thing with the Cobras too, is if you have one like in the 650 range, comparing to something else that makes like 800, it's the fact that these are root style or twin screw superchargers, and they just hit so unbelievably hard down low that it makes your 600 feel probably like a lot more, where you go and ride in something else that actually makes more power, but it may not feel that way if it has like a centrifugal or any other type of blower on it. And that's the other thing with these cars, where it's not a lot of people understand how fast they really feel. Like I said before, I've been in other cars that made a lot of power, but until I jumped into mine with the pulley swap making 480, it wasn't the same. It was like just completely another world to be making power like that, and it's takes some getting used to. The Coney adjustables, and I love them. That's good. Like I said before, I was looking at getting the I think that they're called the B8s for the Bilsteins. The Bilstein B8s, those are the same ones that came on the 2000 Cobra R, and they're actually meant for lower cars. So I was going to pair them with a pair of lower end springs, and that was going to be the setup. But they kept getting pushed back more and more and more on back order, and then I started looking at the Conies and the fact they were adjustable. It was like, it's basically the same shocks and struts as the B8s, and they're adjustable, and they were about the same price. So I pulled the trigger and got those ones instead. The big difference between a Terminator and S550, the torque is different. Yeah, I've heard. It's not just that too. They sound a lot different too. They're like totally different cars. I was really hoping to race my friend with his Roush before I did the blower upgrade on mine. It really wouldn't be much of a race now. Plus his is down. He's got some rear end problems with it that he's needs to take care of. That's going to be pretty expensive. But I really wanted to race him, but I didn't get the opportunity to. But the root style blowers and the down low torque is just, it makes these so much different than anything else. And I wouldn't want, like, looking back, like if I could have gotten the GT350 instead of the Cobra, it would have been the wrong choice, because I'm a lot more happier with this car than I would have been with anything else. B8s are fine, but not adjustable. Yeah, exactly. That was my big reason for swapping over, is that they didn't have the adjustability factor. So it just seemed more logical to go with the Conies, and they're a good brand name. So I felt as though I would be quite happy with them. So it's a matter of when they go on. Like I said earlier, I don't want to take the time to do it myself and have the car down more, because it's already been gone for so long. So it may be a wintertime project, because I want to take it back to DRK Performance over the winter, have them drop the IRS out, put the FTBR bushing kit in there, and if I can at the same time get the clutch done, get that taken care of, so I don't have to worry about that too. So probably at that same time I'll have them do the springs and the shocks and struts at the same time. So I can't stomach the thought of it being a nice day and having the car out on jack stands in the garage and working on it when I could be out driving it, because I want to take every possible day I have left with good weather before winter to drive the car, because I have like 15-20 video ideas that I want to do. And the problem is not having enough content to film, it's having the time to film it, because I'm going to have to just take the car out and every day that I can and film at least a couple of videos to try to get everything filmed before the end of the year when it has to go up for the winter. Hopefully I can still have it out in November if I'm lucky, but we'll have to see when I get there. Good move on the bushing kit. Yeah, definitely. That's like one of the top things that I've always heard about to do on these cars, is to do the bushing kit. And it's, when I thought that it was already done, I'm like, that's a huge plus. That's, $700 I don't have to spend, but it's not the case. It's either they're completely trashed from when it was road raced and just being used so much that the bushings have finally worn out, or they're actually the stock bushings, which I think they are, because there's a lot of things with this car that weren't quite right when I got it, like with the Brembo brakes that were flipped on the wrong sides. When I took those off over the winter, rebuilt the entire thing. They have all new pistons, seals, hardware. Those brakes are completely rebuilt, had them powder coated. And I put them back on the right side. had a friend come over, blood the system, and so I have a feeling if they screwed up, put in the calipers on the wrong sides, then maybe they weren't accurate with the information about the FTBR kit actually being on there. So you're gonna love the bushing kit. It completely changes the car. You have subframe connectors on it? No, I don't, but they're too big. But there's a box on the floor back there. I have full length Maximum Motorsports subframe connectors. I wanted to have those put on this summer, but the car has been gone the entire time. So that's something that's probably going to have to wait a little bit longer. I do want to get them put on fairly soon, but I want to get it done at a place that has a drive-on lift, because I don't want it on a 4-post lift and have them welded in, because the body's going to be, I don't want the body tweaked at all and have them welded in. So I want it on all 4 tires when they're welded on. So I got to, the Ford dealership that I go to can do stuff like that after hours and stuff, but that's something that I'll take care of hopefully in the near future. Gotta go, guys. Have a good night. Good luck on the Cobra build. I'll send you a message on the MMR kit later tonight when I get home. All right, sounds good. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. The connectors and bushings are insane combo. You're not going to believe how much better the car drives and handles. Yeah, it's. I would put the drivability factor with the car's enjoyment factor pretty low. It's not fun to drive. It's fun to drive, like the power aspect of the car, being the fact that it's a Terminator Cobra, that's cool. But as far as how good it feels to drive it, it's not, because that coilover kit sucks for street driving, and the bushing kit obviously needs to be done because those bushings are trashed. I took some pictures of it when it was on a lift before, and they're just cracked. They're dried out. It's just not good. So it's going to be like a huge night and day difference when it's done. Yep. Thanks for stopping in. That was nice to see everyone that did come in. Well, this has been going on for like over 2 hours. I'm surprised my voice held out this long. Even though I'm pretty much over being sick, but obviously still had a few issues during the stream where my voice just wanted to completely go. But it's after 10 o'clock here. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but I appreciate everyone that did stop in for the first live stream. I was really expecting to have one person maybe pop in, but appreciate everyone that did come in. I want to do more live streams. The way my work schedule is, I can't do the same day every week. So if I'm going to do live streams, I'm going to have to do like one every other week so I can keep it on the same day, because I don't want to say this week it's on Friday and next week it's on Wednesday. That's very confusing. I'd rather keep it on the same day but do it every other week. So it's kind of my plan for right now is I'll probably do Fridays and do every other week. And on the week that I am going to do the live stream, during that week when I drop a video, I'll say there'll be a live stream this Friday, just as a reminder for people, so you don't have to keep track of, is this the week that he does it or is this the week that he's not going to do it? So I'll do it that way. Yep, thanks for stopping in, Kyle. I really appreciate it. Mike, you as well. It was nice seeing you. I'm glad everything's going well with the mock. Yep, thank you. I'm like right there. Give me a couple more days and I'll be over it. So I'm going to take off, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully the Cobra's done this weekend, but I should have hopefully an update video soon with all that. There might be one that I film and put out next week. May not be the dyno one. Depends on when the car is done, but we'll say by this time next week, there should hopefully be a dyno video. Good night. Thanks for stopping in. All right, everyone. I'm going to end this. Have a good night. Thanks, everyone, for stopping in. More videos coming up soon, and we'll do another live stream in 2 weeks from now. It's okay. We'll do more. We'll do more. Yep. Thanks. I'll keep you updated on what happens, and we'll go from there. All right, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you.